My name's Allison Parker. My pronouns are she, her. I'm going to be representing LACONI Recharge for this presentation. Thank you all for coming. LACONI Recharge is a section of LACONI that is intended to support and to help develop the whole self in terms of the library worker. So we're looking at things like the employee wellness, leadership, networking opportunities, and building skills maybe outside of the typical things that you see in library presentations, especially learning that we can get from outside the library profession. So we're very excited to have a presentation today all about organizing your work life. All right, so before we get into 4 strategies for smooth task management, I want to introduce our wonderful host, Mackenzie Scott. And here's a little bit about Mackenzie. Mackenzie Scott is a certified professional organizer and the operations manager at Mission to Organize LLC, a home organizing and relocation concierge service headquartered in Chicago, Illinois. Yay, local! She and team Mission to Organize provide local, national, and international clients with unique organizing, moving, and lifestyle solutions. Mackenzie has been organizing professionally since 2015. However, helping others get organized has been a lifelong passion. When she's not working on all things MTO, Mackenzie channels her extra can-do energy into finding innovative ways to support the organizing industry and inspiring others to do what they best by getting organized. Mackenzie Scott, CPO, is a member of the local and national chapters of National Association of Productivity and Organizing Professionals. She currently serves on the NAPO Chicago board as chapter secretary. Mackenzie is also a member of the National Association of Black Professional Organizers and serves on the operations committee. Mackenzie's passions include nerding out to a good book series. Oh, Mackenzie, you know your audience. Starting a new craft project and competing in trivia leagues with friends. All right, turning it over to Mackenzie Scott.
All right. Hello, everybody. So excited to join you all today. I could not have been more excited when I heard that a group of library people needed a speaker. I was like, oh man, I value everything that you all do to support our communities, our Chicagoland community, and people in general. I love being a resource to people for organizing skills. And so it means so much to me that I get to support you all who provide resources to people in such a huge capacity and in so many ways. So I'm really excited to be a resource to you today and help, focus on ways that I can support you all in your work environment. That's what we'll be focusing on today. However, all of these organizing principles and the backbones of all of these organizing principles can really be used throughout your life. And so I'm also excited to have the Q&A at the end. We can dig into a little bit more of the crossover of those things and answer any questions that you guys want to pick my brain about from the presentation or organizing in general. Today, it is my goal during the presentation to give you a lot of resources and to also have some fun workshop moments in the presentation to help you guys really start thinking about how these things apply to you specifically, areas that you can make changes, areas of opportunity for you to streamline your work life and help you be successful. So be ready to jot down some of your answers when I, prompt you to think about how these things apply to you and to share them in the chat if you're comfortable. It's really helpful to others to kind of commiserate over problems that we have and successes that we have can really be beneficial to us all, especially since you all, work in the same industry. You probably have more in common than you think, even though you all have different roles. So feel free to share if you are comfortable sharing. And know that you have the handout that was just dropped in the chat and that you'll also have these slides as well. And you also just have me as a resource after this as well, and all of the resources that Mission to Organize has out there. We've had a different YouTube video every month on different topics. So if you have a question, we've got content out there for you. And I would just love to connect and be involved with you guys after. So with all of that, let's get started. All right. So no matter what your role is at work, most of us want to start our workday feeling confident, focused, energized, carry out our workday feeling calm and organized, and that we have things under control. And I don't know about you guys, but when I leave my workday, even though I love what I do, I want to feel accomplished and I want to feel like I can actually leave work at work. So, all of these things will hopefully help you accomplish all of those different pieces. My goal today, again, is to give you tools for how to manage your work tasks during the day so that, you know, a smooth day at work most days is your reality and you feel like you can handle things that get thrown at you. So, our first strategy is to create and cultivate a daily checklist. So, the purpose of a daily checklist is not like a typical full-fledged to-do list of all of the things you ever have to do at work. The purpose of a daily checklist is to give you that backbone that no matter what the day throws at you, no matter who stops by your desk, no matter who comes into your workspace, no matter what random tasks pop up, that you have a place to start your day. You have a place to come back to kind of ground you and give you a checklist of things that you know, hey, if I check in on these items, I'm probably going to have a smooth, successful day. And it helps things to not get lost. And it just helps to give you that structure to keep you moving. For a lot of people, you know, you might have some really good cues on what you should use for a checklist, for a daily checklist in your job description. That's a great place to start and, you know, and look at that job description, set it, whatever it says, it's like your role, think about the things that make you successful in doing that. And they're kind of bigger concepts. We'll go into exactly kind of what you should put in a daily checklist next. So again, it's that go-to place that is hopefully somewhere in your workspace accessible that you can come back to when you start feeling a little frazzled. All right. So what should a daily checklist really include? What should it be designed as? So it should be feasible, simple, and proactive. So when I say feasible, I mean these should be things that you know without a doubt, like you can always get done and you can always accomplish. It should be realistic. It shouldn't be so long that it's, you know, there's no way you can get all those things done. So when you look at the items on this list, you should feel confident and you should feel that if you get them done, that you're going to really be in a good place. So keep it short, keep it general. So things like check email, process incoming X, you know, so let's say you're someone, I'm going to use my very basic library knowledge. You guys take it to the next level. Okay. Let's say I need to process all of the books that got returned today. That's a daily task, for example, I'm guessing, of something that happens every day. So those big concepts of like, what are my daily things that have to happen every day? And I would say checking emails, you know, that's one of those things we can ignore, but if we check it every day, it's probably better, right? So that we don't get a huge backlog of items. So put in those big general things. Proactive, not reactive. That's one of the big concepts and reasons why your daily checklist is going to be such a powerful tool for you, because it's helping you to stay ahead of the curve instead of waiting for something to come to you and then you have to respond to it. How can you reach out ahead of time? Let's say you're someone in a managerial position. Maybe something on your daily checklist is check in with everybody that reports to you, even if it's just for 2 minutes. Hey, how are you doing? How, you know, maybe it's that so that they feel comfortable so that you're in less of a reactive position later where someone's, you know, not feeling checked in on. So think of things in your role that help you to be proactive and not reactive and add them to your daily checklist. Again, be realistic, know your limits. Items that, if not touched upon regularly, create bigger issues. These should be items that are consistent, So they always should be happening and important. There's some things that are consistent, but that you're never going to forget to do them, but you should probably, you're never going to forget to do them. So maybe they don't need to be on your daily checklist. Put in tasks in your checklist in order of importance. So this will really come in handy later, and we'll talk about that. This is a big one. Leave room for last minute and new things. We're not going to put them on the daily checklist, but you're just going to leave an item on there that says, for me, I like to have one that just says, put out fires or look for fires to put out. So you want to leave room for whatever's going to come up, because obviously every day's not going to go perfectly. And there's going to be other things you're going to need to do besides that daily checklist. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And then the last thing on the list is a daily declutter, or a 10-minute tidy, as I like to put it. That should be the last thing on your list. And that's to clear off your desk, file away papers, put away supplies. That'll really help you start your day fresh every day when you come back to your desk. So I also like to tell people to put things on their daily checklist that are just important for their wellness. Let's say, hey, I have a really great day when I manage to drink enough water. Maybe the first thing on your daily checklist is to go fill up your water and put it on your desk. So it doesn't always have to be like things in your role. It's also meant to help you check in. If you're someone like me that struggles to take breaks and gets too excited about their work, maybe you need to put in a break in the middle of your daily checklist just to remind you to make sure to work that in. All right. So the last thing too is start thinking about where that checklist should go and have it be something that really works with your habits. So I like to have my daily checklist when I'm at work doing my physical role, organizing people's spaces. I have an apron and I have the little checklist literally in my apron pocket, and I pull it out to make sure that I remember to do all of the things. When I'm doing an administrative day, I have my checklist in a document with all of my work items, and I refer back to it as I'm working. So think about where it makes sense and do it with something that goes with your habits. If you always go get a cup of coffee in the morning, put a little thing next to your coffee pot to get you to start checking in as soon as you start your day. All right. So to best design your daily checklist and be able to answer all the kind of questions I just posed about how to design it and how to function well for you, I want everybody to take a quick moment. Think about a great work day that you've had. What kind of things happened that day? Did you get a lot done and that made it great? Did you talk to your coworkers and conspire about how to make something awesome happen? Did you check in on things that you forgot to check? Did you check in on a project that you've been dreading? Did you plan and map out something so that you could space it out over time? Those are the kinds of things you want to think about and back up and think about the steps that you need to add to that daily checklist that'll help make more days like that perfect work day. Not every day is going to be perfect. It's not. But having these kinds of things in place will really help you to have more great days. Think about how you want to feel starting your day, carrying out your day, leaving your work day. Think about that for a second and jot some things down that immediately strike you. For me, I feel really accomplished starting my workday when I know I have a checklist. I know I have a place to start. I don't start my day like, oh my gosh, okay, there's so many things that need to happen. I know there's so many things. I don't know what the things are. Having that checklist gives you a grounded place to start where you're like, I know exactly what I'm doing today. I know exactly where to start. I feel really great about my workday when I know I have tasks coming in and I know I won't lose track of my daily important tasks because I can easily come back to that checklist, which is proactive, while I'm dealing with reactive tasks that come in. And I feel really good leaving my workday because I know I have systems in place to track new things that I need to tackle the next day. All right. So that brings us to, now that we know how to incorporate a routine checklist into our day, we know now we need to know, how do we tackle the wild cards?
How do we tackle the new projects? How do we tackle those last minute tasks? What do we do when someone comes over our desk and say, can you help me with this thing? What do we do when somebody has a request that we don't know how to deal with that, throws us off of our rhythm, pulls us away from that checklist? Often when performing your daily checklist, that can also take you down a rabbit hole. Maybe checking your emails on your daily checklist and you find an email with a proposal from someone that says, hey, can we do this thing? That is where the prioritization comes in. And that's where we need our second item, strategy 2, prioritizing tasks and creating a separate to-do list for those extra things. We need a special place for projects and a special place for, long-term items and short-term items that just pop up that we need to deal with. So recognize when you're in that daily checklist and new tasks come up, and recognize that it is a new task. That's the first step, is saying, okay, hey, this is a separate thing. This is pulling me away. Let me jot this thing down in a new space. So let's create a space for long-term projects and large projects. And we'll talk a little bit about how to decide what that space is and where to put it. And while new tasks come in, think about escalating tasks that are both urgent and important. So maybe someone says, hey, 6 months from now, I'm going to need you to be in this meeting. And I need you to help me run the meeting. I need you to be there to do X, Y, Z. That's important, but maybe not urgent, right? So that means it doesn't need to come to the top of our list because it's not urgent, and it is important. So we need to write it down, but it's not that hybrid of urgent and important. For example, if someone said, hey, I need you to help me with this person that just walked in and they are causing commotion and we need to figure out how to get them out of here. That would be an urgent and important task, and we need to drop everything that we're doing, right? And so that's the beauty of having a place to sort tasks that need to be handled later, not on our daily checklist, but on our to-do list and our project management tool, whatever that may be, versus, hey, all hands in the air, I got to get up and handle this thing right now, which then brings the beauty of that daily checklist back in, because we know when we get back to our desk, we have that checklist as a tool. We know where we left off, and we have that long-term to-do list for ourselves to know that we captured everything that we need to capture. So having a home for all of those things is really important, and having them be separate is really a big key to success. So it's all about that pivot. When you get a new task or a new ask yourself, how does this new task fit into my daily checklist in terms of importance? So using that, is this both urgent and important item, right? Hopefully, the way you've designed your daily checklist with that little bullet point of room that I talked about for new things that come in, what is today's project, insert today's project here. Hopefully that helps you to decide, hey, do I need to insert this into my tasks for today because it is urgent and important? Or do I just need to put it on my long-term to-do list? And then I know that I, check that long-term to-do list. Maybe that's actually an item on your daily checklist, is check long-term projects, So you need that structure, and then this is how you fit items into it. Other great questions to ask is, when is the deadline? So I talked about this is happening 6 months from now, so that's not urgent. Will I need to involve others to complete this task? That's a huge one, right? Because that means that now it's outside your bubble. Now we need to think about, okay, so and so and I have to do this together. I need X much time. Also, maybe it's something that I do independently and then I need to pass it off to someone else, right? That's going to shorten your deadline because you need to finish it so that you can give it to someone else. So think about all of those factors, and that will really help you figure out if that new thing that came up, that new task, needs to be inserted into your tasks for today, or if it can go to next time. So now we think about, we have the need for this separate space that's not our daily checklist for those long-term projects. We need to create a separate space where we're not letting our long-term goals clutter up our daily checklist. We need a space to be able to break projects down into smaller tasks. We need to make sure that we're putting, you know, the hardest and most important tasks for a project at the top. It's really great to kind of think about what resources you already have available to you within your company structure. For example, in my workplace, we use Google Drive a lot. I use it for almost everything. We also have a CRM software. And so when I think about my project management, I didn't say, oh, hey, how about I'm going to go use this random app? I could try that, but it's probably not going to be as helpful, right? Because it's not already in my sphere of where I'm working. So think about a space that you can use that perhaps you're underutilizing within your work already, to house those long-term projects. You know, maybe you are creating something new. Maybe you use Google Drive, but you don't normally use Google Sheets, you know, but at least it's in the same family. So maybe you create a spreadsheet for yourself that you simply add a new line for projects and have a column for the date and have a column for the level of priority, low, medium, high. If anybody wants to ask me later about how to go crazy in Google Sheets, I can let you know. It's a huge passion. But you know, so maybe you create a spreadsheet. Maybe your team already has like a task management, project management software, and you need to create a new space in that platform for your own personal projects. But whatever space you choose, even if it's simply a note on your phone, you know, or a note on your computer or a Word document, make sure that you're incorporating urgency. So low, medium, or high priority is helpful. Make sure you're incorporating the date, maybe the date it was given to you and the date that it's due. You know, if someone doesn't give you a due date, make up a due date for yourself. And it's nice if it's something that allows you to sort. So for example, I love using my spreadsheets to sort, okay, give me all of my high priority tasks. And then I can see those at the top, right? And so then when I come from my daily checklist, hey, go check long-term projects, I go look at the high priority projects, right? And once you get a new project, setting yourself those benchmark tasks, especially if you have like a reminder app that you can give yourself, like, hey, you know, on this date, I'm gonna have the proposal done, and on this date, I'm gonna have the slides done. You know, that'll help you to map things out. So really make sure you have those separate spaces and think about what kind of space is going to work well for you to think about those next term projects. For some people, it's 8 zillion Post-its on a wall, and you can move the Post-its around and work as a team on the project. So we've thought about what we need to get done in a day. We've thought about what we need to get done long term. We have separate spaces for both of those things. Now let's talk about the how. How are these things going to happen? What things are going to get in our way? You know, it's not going to be, you know, it's not going to be easy every time to just go through a checklist. There's going to be barriers. There's going to be interruptions. There's going to be something out to get us. So how do we equip ourselves to really set ourselves up for success? So strategy 3 is to protect your distraction-free work zone. The biggest productivity hindrances are interruptions. According to a Reg survey, 40% of productivity hindrances are interruptions, and 20% is procrastination. So those are 2 really big categories. And so, you know, hopefully all this kind of structure that we created helps a little bit with procrastination, because I think a lot of us procrastinate because we're like, oh, I don't want to do the thing, right? When you have tools and set yourself up, you feel a little bit more confident. Some of us are nerds and, you know, get excited about checklists. And so we get excited to do things just because we get excited to check them off. So hopefully that's some of you, and that'll be exciting. But a lot of it is really those interruptions. So what we want to consider is what surrounds us at work. So that's what's tangible and what's intangible. So tangible could mean eliminating clutter, reorganizing the setup of your space. Tangible can also be people. You know, they're real, they're live. They are people can be a tangible, you know, disruption, even if it's a welcome distraction. You know, maybe you end up chatting with somebody that you love chatting with, and that can be positive too, because it can be a good morale, ego boost for the day. Some of us need that break in our day, but it can also, you know, really be distracting, and you might be in the flow or the groove of something. So that can be a tangible distraction. An intangible distraction, you know, maybe you are, people can also be kind of an intangible distraction. Maybe you're very people facing and customer facing, and the things that distract you are just communication, and you need to set some boundaries for, hey, I'm working, you know, I'm going to be really focused for the next 45 minutes on X thing. And maybe you can find some ways, we'll talk about some strategies to, you know, let people know that you're not available, without saying, hey, be quiet. So I want everybody to take a moment to think about what are some of the distractions that you have while you're at work. Is it things out around you? Physical things in your space? Is it people? Is it sheer overwhelm? What kind of clutter, tangible or intangible, do you need to overcome? Emails. Emails is a big one. I see people said emails. Emails are really, you know, we actually within our company did a big overhaul recently on, okay, and we did it for the National Association of Organizers. We're on the board for Chicago. We did a whole overhaul. Hey, what are all the ways we can not email each other? And that initiative was really, really helpful and really successful. And we took a lot of our internal communication away from email in any way that we could, and, you know, put it into a project management software, or put it into just a spreadsheet. Actually, on my team, we have, you know, it was very distracting, just the abundance of emails and how overwhelming that can feel. So everyone in our company has a tracking document. And in that tracking document, we have a tab called discussions. And everybody has access to each other's tracking documents. And so if I have like a long-term kind of question for someone or something that I don't need answered urgently, I go to their tracking document and I write down my question. And then we have a meeting scheduled for, you know, for our check-in. And every time I check in with that person, I look at that discussions tab and we go through those discussions. And even on top of that, sometimes I'll go in to put a question in before my meeting even happens. And I'll see that somebody has just in the answer box put the answer to my question. And nobody got an email. You know, everyone got to leisurely go look at that space for discussion. So that's a good strategy. Another way I've seen people divert from emails, at least internally, is to use, again, a project management tool. And let's say you have like an area for a project, and that area has comment functionality. Asking your questions right in the workspace on top of the thing rather than in an email. That also is a great way to do that through Google Docs. If you have those working documents, instead of saying, hey, I think for next month's event, we should hire a clown. Totally random. I'm not even a big fan of clowns. We should hire a clown. Instead of that, inside the document where it says event entertainment, put a comment on there and tag somebody and say, hey, what about a clown? And then guess what? If you guys decide to have a clown, you just type it right in there and accept that comment. And now it's done and it's in your workspace. So I could talk all day about ways to mitigate emails. So there's a lot of creative ways, but this is a great time to think about, hey, what are these things getting in my way? Because then you can actually think of what is the solution to help get you out of that. So good. I hope you guys kept brainstorming about things that get in your way so we can protect those work zones. For your physical space, I love giving this analogy. This is really helpful for a couple of reasons. So everybody picture you are in your workspace. Let's say you're somebody that does sit at a desk. You're sitting at your desk. Picture there's this big bullseye on the floor on your desk, and you are this red dot. Everything that is in this kind of opaque area right outside you is things you need daily, things and people. Let's say you work with someone side by side every day. Let's say you don't have a standing desk job. Let's say you work around and this dot follows you around your space. Okay. Who do you need to have right next to you doing what you do? What do you need to have right next to you? Those things should be as close to you as possible as you do your job, right? One more ring out should be things that are sources. Like I don't need that every day, but it's a good resource to have that I need to access to refer to. Like let's say you were in something with pricing and you don't have it memorized. You need to have that as a resource when someone asks you a question to know the answer. Next ring out would be oh, and I skipped one. Look at that. So obviously after daily would be frequent. So things you use daily, then things you use like pretty frequently, like maybe every other day, or people that you need to speak with every other day. Hopefully they're close by. And then you have daily, you have frequent in your daily, and then you have sources. So those are the things you need to reference. And then on the outside, you have storage, things you don't need all of the time. So I'll give the example of when I'm doing my desk job. Let's say, I'm sitting here at my desk. Here's one I'm breaking. I have a stapler right here. I staple something maybe twice a year, but I think this stapler is cute and it brings me joy and I like looking at it. And that gives me a boost during the day. So it's really in my, this third yellow ring of how close this is. But think about things like that. Why do I have what I have close to me, especially if you're in a desk environment? And make sure the things that you really need are really close by. Ideally, if I could have a whole water cooler right here, that would be great, right? I don't have that next to me. It's all the way in my kitchen, which is, probably kind of this lighter purple ring for me. So really assess what's in your zone. If you're, at a desk, think about what's in your reach. If you're someone that moves around a lot, when I'm doing my on-site job organizing, I have my apron. And in my apron, I have everything I need because this bullseye moves with me, right? So I have a box cutter from when I'm helping people move. When I'm unpacking boxes, I have a marker from when I'm packing and marking the boxes. I keep my label maker in my bag because that's something I only do once at the end of an appointment. I don't need to carry it around all day when I'm pulling down things out of cabinets and closets. So really assess if your bullseye is working for you. Make sure you have then things that you use frequently, things that you use daily, then things you use as a resource, and then things that you use for storage. And again, I think that you can think about not just physical things, but people. People are a resource. I'm sure I don't have to explain that to any of you. All right. So what can we do to mitigate those distractions and protect our workspace? So if you're lucky enough to be in a place where you can shut a door, shut a door. Consider setting boundaries by having office hours, times when you're available for conversation or meetings, and times when you are not. Set the ringer on your phone to silent when you can. Use noise reduction headphones. I would assume that many of you are in very quiet spaces. Maybe you're somebody that is actually counterintuitive and that's the silence is too much silence. Maybe you need music to help you be more productive. So maybe you need to find a way to, respect others' space and boundaries by being muted, but maybe you need a little pump up music. Think about ways to have that with you in headphones, perhaps. Clear the clutter. And one of the biggest things is to share your goals with those around you so they can respect your space and your boundaries. It's really hard when you set these things up and you don't and you don't provide yourself with that community of people to help you. So I would say with all of these steps, you need to share these goals. So share your boundaries with people. Also, let's go back. So share that work zone boundary. Share with people how you're prioritizing tasks. They need to know, hey, I've got your information. Let's communicate and respond when you get tasks. That's going to mitigate another email. Letting people know that you've seen the information when you're prioritizing tasks. Let them know how you're prioritizing those tasks. Ooh, specific recommendations for remote work. Absolutely. We'll get into that in a second. Thank you for that, Carlos. And then back to this first one, that checklist. Oops. Consider too, you can even be a resource for those around you by having a checklist for your role. Maybe there's multiple people in your role, and maybe you guys collaboratively make a checklist for your role. Maybe you even find ways to delegate within that. That's a great way to manage tasks. For example, I'm the operations manager, and a while ago I did a really big deep dive on, okay, let me get all of the operations tasks together. When I did that, when I looked at all of them, I actually found a lot of holes and added more tasks. And then I took all of those tasks and I broke them up to the different people on my team, me, my operations assistant, my business owner. I even gave her some tasks. And I separated them all up. And so then everybody's daily checklist was shorter. And a lot of it had similarities. So I know, hey, I'm checking that discussions tab every day. I know my business owner is checking it every day. I know my operations manager is checking it every day. I know all of my team members are checking it. So you do have to you need to develop that trust to know that everybody's using the thing in the same way for it to work in some capacities. You can absolutely create a daily checklist that is only for you and not involve anyone else. But if you really want to take that to the next level, getting others involved and doing those things together, even if you're not in the same role, sharing what your checklist is, like, hey, letting people know, hey, I'm going to check my email every day, or that's a part of my daily process. That really helps, especially if there are other structures in place that people are going to need to work around what you're doing. You need to involve other people in that process. And I would actually say that that's a great tool for remote work. You probably need even more check-ins with people because you're not there live. You don't want people to, or maybe you do. I was going to say, you don't want people to forget that you're a resource or that you are there. But that might be one of the benefits of being remote, is that sometimes people don't bother you because you're not as right in their work zone. So I would say for remote work, a big tool is definitely making sure that you are identifying what your workspace is if you are working from home. When you say remote work, I'm not sure if you mean just, you're in a different office environment, but not in the same office with a lot of people that you work, or if you were at home. But if you were at home, make sure you're defining what your workspace is. That definitely takes us back to those boundaries are even more important. You could have family, kids, others living in the space that are trying to, come in on your boundary. And so you really need to define your workspace in those situations so that you're not interrupted. So this is even more important to have a distraction-free area if you are at home. So if you're at home, I would say definitely trying to carve out a space that's ideally not in a main living space. I always say try to think about, is there anybody, especially if you're someone that needs to be on Zoom a lot, wherever you set up your space, make it so that no matter if anybody else is walking in the room, they are not walking behind you. I'll let you guys see a little bit. So there's a door over here in my house. My husband can walk all the way across this house and around, and he's never in my camera view, right? So think about that when you're setting up your space. Also think about your access. I talked about that water cooler. Think about your access to the things that you need. Like, are you in a space where you're going to be able to get to things that you need? Are you near a bathroom? Are you someplace that isn't also going to distract your peace life? In that first slide, I talked about making sure that you can leave work at work. I know for a lot of people, they have to have their office in their bedroom at all costs. If you can try not to. I know that makes it hard to kind of disconnect and go to sleep, and because you're like looking at your computer. So if you can, try to make those separations with like a wall divider, or even I'm actually also I'm ready to let you guys into my house. Hope you're enjoying it. This is my dining room. This is my living room. And I kind of have it blocked off. I don't know how great that was, but I kind of have it blocked off. I have these desks at an L. So to me, when I am in this corner, I am in my office. If I'm doing anything outside of my work, I will sit at my dining room table. I try not to eat here. I try not to create here. I do drawing and painting. I don't do that here. So protecting that workspace is also a mental thing. What are the things that happen here, and what are the things that do not? Hopefully that was a little bit helpful for that remote work stuff. I could talk about remote work all day. We can definitely talk more about that in the Q&A as well. All right. So with all of that, now we know what to do. We know how to separate our tasks, short and long term versus daily. We know how to prioritize as things come in. We know how to adjust our environment. But why are we doing all this? What's going to keep us accountable? Not just setting up these systems, but keeping up with them. We need a why. And not only do we need whys, we need ways to remind ourselves of those whys. So number 4 is establishing your why. And I know that this is a very, intangible concept, but I would argue that it is literally the most important. No matter what you're talking about organizing, whether you're talking about organizing your stuff, whether you're talking about organizing your space, whether you're talking about organizing your mind, which is a lot of it for task management. If you don't have a reason why you're doing it, you're not going to do it. You're not going to keep up with it. And I don't say that to scare you guys. I say that to be realistic. A lot of people like to think about getting organized as a one-time task. Creating a new system can be a every once in a while task. You set up a system and you really were thoughtful about it, and so it works very well. So you don't have to set up a new system for a while, but you have to maintain that system. You have to do that 10-minute tidy. You have to every day recommit. It's just like a relationship. It's just like it's like everything else. You don't just decide to do it once and then it's perfect forever, right? So I find that the only thing that's really going to keep you continuing to make that commitment and continuing to make it a priority is if you have a reason, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. So if we're motivated, we can accomplish a lot, right? And so how do we get motivated? We have to decide what our why is. So I want to give everybody 30 seconds, feels like an eternity, to think about what your why is. Is it your family? Why do you go to work? Why do you stay focused? Is it your family? Do you want to set a good example for them? Is it a professional goal? Maybe you want to make a lateral move at work. Maybe you aren't necessarily motivated by more money, but you're motivated by doing something new. I love it. Someone says, I like eating and shelter. Me too. Those are really important, and we shouldn't take them for granted. And that's why we work to have resources that we need to. So maybe it's a simple human need, right? But yeah, maybe it's a professional goal. Maybe you want to do something a little different and you want to prove to yourself that you could take on a different kind of responsibility. And to do that, you need to be more organized. Someone said to keep my head above water. That resonates a lot, right? A lot of times our motivation for getting more organized is to just feel not like you're like this in the water, but like you are, you know, you're doing a fancy stroke. People are throwing beach balls at you and you're like, ah, right? So maybe it's that we want to smooth a little more seamlessly, to challenge myself. I love it. There's so much room for us all to grow. And I think one of the reasons why organization is so important to me is that I always say that the more I love helping people get organized because it facilitates whatever they excel at. Anything that you're great at, I believe that it could be even better if you're organized about it and you have a system. And that sounds really structured, but honestly, a lot of creative people, if you give them structure, it gives them the room to be more calm and the room to be more introspective, because organizing well requires you to really think about what's working and what's not working. And when you do that, you give yourself the space to create. So I love helping people get organized so they can do what they do best. So that really makes sense. So for your mental health, I can't tell you guys how much. So when I organize a physical space and I go into someone's home and, we come in and there's a mountain of stuff or there's a mountain of paperwork on the desk, right? A lot of times it's not about, hey, I need to find this document. A lot of times it's not about that. A lot of times it's like, I can't come in here and do my job because I look at this pile of paper and I'm immediately overwhelmed at the beginning of the day. What if instead of that pile of paperwork, you're met with one piece of paper that's your checklist for the day of the things that you're supposed to do, that you cultivated? That's really powerful. To find joy in my work, right? I think it can be really fun. I don't know, personally, I love problem solving. It gets so excited when someone comes to you with a problem and together you can work with them to come up with the solution, and it's so exciting and fun, and then you get to put the new thing in place to solve it and everybody's really excited. I find that I don't have the space for that when all I'm thinking about is, oh my gosh, someone just brought me a problem, right? Because you don't have the structure in place to know how you're going to take on that new thing. So giving yourself the structure to know, how am I going to take on this new task, is really important. And the motivation of why you're getting organized so you can be excited about new challenges, that's crazy. To make things easier because I'm inherently lazy. You know what? That's most of us. It's most of us. Right? We all deserve for it to be easy. To be easy so that we can be lazy about things that we don't have a lot of motivation for, and go above and beyond for the things that we're passionate about. So creating that space is really great. Thank you so much, Alan, for saying that, because a lot of people were thinking it, trust me. Oh, yes. I love that someone talked about, being a parent and having the space at work to do something for them and have their own accomplishments outside of their family. That is so important. We are all, no matter what your family dynamic is, it is so important to have things that are your own. And I think getting organized, maybe that's your why, is to take back that sense of control and ownership over your sphere and your space. That is so powerful, guys. It's so powerful. Because we should all enjoy that time. I do think that work can be a getaway
That sounds crazy, but I think that it has the potential to be a getaway in a lot of ways, the same way leaving work at the end of the day and looking forward to going home. I think a lot of us can have that balance. I don't know about you guys, but I'm in a business where sometimes things are slow and sometimes things are absolutely bonkers. And I find that when things are slow, man, after, I'll get excited about it, like, wow, a couple days off. And then I'll get home and I'll be like, man, I really would just love to be in the groove. I want to go back. And so I can tell you, with someone that experiences that, it can be really great if you do set yourself up with structure at work to be excited about it. I love all of these. Awesome, awesome. So find that why, and what I suggest that you do with that why is first share it. Again, back to the sharing. Share it with your coworkers, share it with your family. That really helps to put that extra step. And actually sharing that too, you might find people that are like, oh, that's my motivation too. And then you have a buddy. You have somebody to communicate your successes and your failures with. Because it's not going to be perfect. You're going to forget your why some days when you have a rough day. But so share that. And then also, if you can, put it somewhere. It can be a post-it on your screen. If you're someone that likes to make cute little digital things, if you're someone like that and you haven't yet found Canva, go find it. Ask me about that. If you want to make yourself a cute little thing with your why on it, and put that up somewhere in your workspace, put it in a little picture frame, make it your desktop background. I can tell you guys all about Canva. We can have a whole thing about that. But yes, someone said Canva is the best. It is the best. So find somewhere prominent to put it. For a long time, I had a note on the back of my door. So like I'm leaving out and it's on the back of the door. So when I grab the doorknob, I see it before I leave. And that can be really helpful. It's really nice too, if anybody's ever gotten into having affirmations. An affirmation is a great thing to kind of combine with your why, and to have that written out as something that you start your day with. Maybe your daily checklist is you start your day with your affirmations. My husband has one up in our bathroom and he reads it before he starts his day, and it really helps to just kind of like I am someone who blank, and you read all these things and you start your day with that. And sounds a little hokey, but I'm telling you guys, it helps. It helps to remind you of what your strengths are, and so that you can implement that to support you. So think about where you're going to put that why, how you're going to remember it, so that you can rev yourself up every day. So if we do all these things, if we take action, if we get organized, we can navigate any task. We can navigate anything that comes at us. So cultivate that daily checklist, what that looks like for you, for your role, whether that be honestly at work or at home. I've even come up with like a day off checklist. My day off is usually a different day every week. So I have a day off checklist. A lot of it is reminding myself to relax. So cultivate your daily checklist. That's going to look different for everyone. Prioritize last minute and long-term tasks. So those long-term tasks, breaking them up into shorter things and putting that in your workspace, not your daily checklist. Protect your work zone and establish your work zone, especially if you are someone that works from home. And I have a couple of resources on that. So remind me, I'll get you some YouTube links for our work from home people. Rejuvenate your work by establishing your why. So that is what's going to keep you going. I'm going to tell you right now, all of those, everything else I've said today, unless you have a reason for why you're doing it, it's going to be in one ear and out the other. But if you have that why, you're going to keep coming back and you're going to stay engaged. One thing I want to leave you guys with is, whenever I go to a conference, there's or you go to anything where you're learning new information and tools, right? You have all these thoughts and you're like, oh, I could do this, that, and this, and that. Focus on making one change at a time.
Okay, focus on one change at a time. So like think about this list as a checklist. Focus on that daily checklist, see if you can lock that in and get that in place. Attach it to something that you already do habitually. The best way to start a new habit is to have a why and to attach it to something that is already a habit. So a very basic example would be, say you are someone that wants to try to start flossing and you like never remember to floss, but you always remember to brush your teeth. Put that floss thing next to your toothbrush. I don't know, put a key tag on it, tape it to your toothbrush, go crazy. But if you if you do that, you're 10 times more likely to floss because it's already attached to a habit you already have. You're way more likely to remind yourself of your why every day. If you're an avid coffee drinker and you cannot live without coffee and you put it next to your coffee maker, or if you always buy coffee at Starbucks every morning and you put a little piece of paper in your wallet every time you get your card out, you're going to be reminded of your why, you know? So attach a new habit to an old one. All right. We have a couple bonus minutes here. I have all the faith in you guys that you can take something from today and attach it to something you're already doing and help yourself live a little bit more smoothly. I think we're ready to open it up for questions.